Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining our very first Surface Design Symposium. It's being presented by Spoonflower and Craft Industry Alliance. We're so excited to have you here with us today. My name is Alexis. I'm a UX UI designer at Spoonflower, and I'm going to be moderating for this live class. Please use the chat box at the bottom of your screen to drop any questions you might have along the way. We're going to plan to reserve about 10 minutes toward the end of the class to answer as many questions as we can. And I'll try to answer some as we're going along as well. And in this live session, we're going to be learning how to create a half-drop seamless repeat using Procreate for the iPad. And the class is going to be taught by our host and wonderful teacher, Nina. You might know her better by her artist name, Doit. She is a top-rated teacher on Skillshare living in Belgrade, Serbia. And she is best known for her bold floral patterns and stylized illustrations. And we're so excited to have you with us today, Nina. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alexis, for this wonderful intro, and thank you all for joining me for this live. I'm super excited to be here and to be teaching. As we all know, right, we're going to create half-drop patterns in Procreate. But what I wanted to say is that we're not going to just learn how to create half-drops in Procreate, but we're going to see how we can do it in an easier way, right? So if you're like me, maybe, then what I want to say is that basically I love using Procreate. And once I got my iPad and Procreate, it basically started minimizing the work I do on my laptop. And I basically started doing everything in Procreate, from sketching, drawing, illustrating, animating, and making patterns. But the thing is that, you know, like Procreate, like other apps, is not perfect. So it has its pros and cons. And some of the problems that you might encounter when you're making patterns in Procreate is, first of all, layer limit. And if you're moving the blocks, duplicating stuff, you can really easily hit the layer limit. The second thing that could be a problem is that there are no pattern making actions in Procreate like you have in Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, for example. And then also when you move the elements from the canvas, they are cut off. So basically they're deleted, which is again not the case in Adobe Illustrator. But there is always some kind of workaround or hack that you can create to make your life and workflow a lot easier. So in this class, in the first part of this class, I'm going to show you this workaround that I created. It's just called custom actions for half-drop patterns. And in the second part of the class, we're going to see how we can use these actions and create a half-drop pattern. Okay, so basically, I really prepared, you know, the drawings and everything so that we can stay on a time limit and see all these things and learn them. Okay, so are we good? Is my camera a main camera?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I think then we can start. Let's go to the. Okay, we're here. Yay. So anyways, I already opened a canvas in Procreate, and the canvas is in 3000 by 3000 pixels and 300 dpi resolution. So what we're going to do now is actually create a template that is going to consist of a few, I think 6 layers. And then from there, we will basically create custom actions. So also this part has 2 steps. So what you can do now also is basically follow along and create your template. And if something goes wrong along the way, and if your template is not good, or you couldn't see something or was confusing, also after the class, as Alexis said, and there will be a link in chat so you can download my template and test it out and see how everything works. Okay, so first of all, let's go to settings and drawing guide. And I will edit the drawing guide and put the grid size to max. So we want just 2 lines, 1 horizontal and 1 vertical. Okay. Now to create this template, by the way, this whole process is actually very easy and very fast. It might seem a bit confusing, and you might think like, what the hell am I doing, you know, right now? And but the only thing you need to know is that there is a logic to this, and after we finish and after we use these custom actions, you will see basically the magic happening. Okay, so I will now go to layer 1, sorry, and I will just drop the color in. Okay, I will tap the arrow, and now we can just check the snapping. what's important is that you have magnetics and snapping on. And you can see here, I have distance and velocity set to max. And basically these settings are something that works best for me. Okay. And now to make the first part of the template, I will just grab this corner and snap this into place. So basically what I did, I just scaled it down and snapped it in place. Also, another important, very important thing is while doing this, make sure you don't accidentally basically tap outside the canvas so you don't nudge the layer. Because if you nudge this layer, then your template will not be correct. And then when you create a repeat, you will see like a little line that is going to be a bug. So don't tap anywhere and just deselect it by tapping the arrow. Okay. Now let's go and create another layer. Let's drop the color, again, arrow, and scale it down to half of its size in this corner here and deselect. Okay. Now I will basically create another one, layer 3, drop the color, and scale it down in this corner. Now, before deselecting it, what I need to do, because we're creating a template for a half drop, I need to drag it down until the middle. And now I can deselect it. So you can see everything is snapping in place and everything is now positioned perfectly. Okay, now we need to fill these two parts over here, and I will just duplicate layer 3 and duplicate it once more. I will select one duplicate and drag it up until it snaps until the middle. And I will also select the other duplicate and drag it down until the middle. Okay. So let me just turn off the visibility for these three so you can see these two. And what I want to do now is basically just tap and merge them together as one. Okay. I will also turn off the visibility for this one because I want to make two more parts of the template. Open a new layer. Drop the color, arrow, drag it up until the middle, deselect, and one more, drop the color, and drag it down until the middle. Okay. So basically what you see here in the layers is our parts of the template, and there are basically 6 layers and 6 parts of the template. So what we're going to do now actually is to go one by one and save them as custom actions. Okay. So we'll turn off the visibility for everything else, and I will turn on the visibility, for example, for the layer 1, so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I will tap the layer, go to select, and you can see now that just this square over here is selected. And now you can see in the menu over here, there is this heart icon which says save and load. So I can tap on it and just click this plus icon and I have my selection 1. Basically, this is the first custom action that we'll be using. Okay, to deselect, just tap selection. Now that one is done. I will turn on the other one. Again, select, save and load, selection 2, okay, and deselect. Now let's do this one. Select, save and load, selection 3. And we're just basically doing the same thing until we make all the selections, okay? Okay, select, save and load, selection 4, deselect. Layer 5, select, save and load, selection 5. And this one is the last one, select, save and load, selection 6. Okay. So basically, if I now go and tap on selection, you can see, and when I go to save and load, I have all these selections saved. So basically I have 6 selections, and what we just did are custom actions. And you will see when we start using them, the whole logic of it and how it's going to help us create a half drop pattern. Okay. Now, before we move on to the pattern swatch and the creation of a half drop and using these custom actions, what I want to tell you is that if you created this template, or if you're going to use my template later, I recommend that you save it basically as a separate canvas. The reason for that is because you can reuse it. So you don't have to remake this. You don't have to basically do this over and over again. You can just duplicate this canvas and then start your half drop pattern in it. Okay. So basically that's what I do. I just have my half drop template, and each time I want to start a new pattern, I just duplicate it and use it for the pattern. Okay. So moving on, because we're on a time limit, I had to prepare my pattern swatch, which is over here. But before we move on to that, I also wanted to show you that with this technique and with these custom actions, and also just using Procreate, you can also make complex, intricate patterns. So it is possible to plan something like this and to fit it together using just Procreate. But since we're on a time limit, in this class, we're going to learn the basics. I'm going to show you the easy pattern, and I'm going to show you how to use these custom actions. But the good thing is that I have a whole Procreate class on the topic of how to create these intricate, complex patterns, basically how to plan them out, as you can see on this sketch, which is like a big part of it. And for example, you can see this one, the one that I'm showing also in the Skillshare class, and a little planning out of this kind of pattern. But anyways, let's go back to this little cute, simple pattern. I don't know what's up with me, but I've been these days just like these kind of doodly things, little kind of misprints. And I thought that this would be a very good example on how to make half drop patterns, because there is a certain logic to it and you can really easily plan it out. So in case you're following along, you can also create some circles or little doodles that you can now use to test out these custom actions. Okay, what I wanted to say, let me check. Where am I now? Yes. First of all, I wanted to show you my layers and what's happening there. So you can see I have this pattern swatch group that has all the layers that you can see here. And in the layers, what's important and what I wanted to mention is that I keep all the layers separate. So I'm separating them by type and by color and by position. So by doing that, you're going to have an editable and professional file. So my biggest advice, even if you're starting out, don't merge things together, because later you might want to change the color, you might want to change something, and the only way to do it, and also to be able to send a file to clients, is to have an editable file where the layers are separated. Okay, and you can see here that I made additional elements, and this is just because of the live class. If this was reality, I would definitely just draw the elements when I needed them. But anyways, let me bring back the pattern swatch. And also, as I mentioned before, the way I started this pattern swatch is by duplicating the template and just drawing inside. And you can see when I go to selection and save and load, I have all these custom actions saved. And what I can do before we begin is to turn on the drawing guide, and it's already set to max. Okay, another thing before we start using these custom actions that I want to mention is about half drop patterns. So some of you already know about half drop patterns. Some of you maybe already made half drop patterns, maybe in Procreate, maybe in other programs like Illustrator or Photoshop. But maybe some of you are still new to this and you're not sure about half drop. So here is just a very basic and general explanation of a half drop. So first of all, if it's a full drop pattern, then that means that everything that is repeating on the edges, like so, like normally, right? You have a square, you have another square, and here again. But if it's a half drop pattern, right? Then basically you're taking a square, you're placing it here, and then bam, you're moving it by half. So basically what happens with a pattern like this is that a repeat goes by half, right? On the sides, if it's dropping by half on the sides, okay? So when you're planning a half drop pattern, you know that if you place an element here, it will repeat over here, right? Because it's dropping. But what happens on the upper part is basically a simple full drop. So what's up here will just normally move down here. So, and another thing I wanted to mention also before we start is why would you even use half drop patterns? You know, why would you, do this whole thing of like thinking and imagining a half drop? And it is true that it's a bit more difficult than doing a full drop. But the main reason is that with a full drop pattern, especially if you have elements, for example, florals that are very kind of particular and bold and distinct, and then if you put them in a full drop repeat, everything will basically repeat on this kind of horizontal line, and then you get a pattern sometimes that is kind of obvious, you just like see where it repeats. You can see these elements sticking out, and then you basically lose the whole nice flow of a pattern. Of course, that's not the case every time. There are beautiful full drops. You can also hide repeat in a full drop, but sometimes a half drop is a great solution because you're basically taking this horizontal repeat line and you're just kind of like shifting it. Yeah, you get this kind of, your view is now not, fixed on a horizontal line repeat, but it shifts, up and down, and then the pattern can have a better flow. So that is why a half drop pattern can work very nicely. And also I remember myself when I started, I just wanted to do everything in a full drop. It just kind of seemed kind of, I'm sticking to this full drop thing, and I will toss everything around in a full drop swatch because I'm just kind of like a bit horrified by a half drop. But then once I tried it out and once I like did 1, 2, 3, I just thought, okay, this makes sense. And my imagination just started making a plan for a half drop. So definitely it might seem intimidating at the beginning, but it just gets in your mind and you just start thinking about like a repeat that drops, and that's it. Anyways, also with these custom actions, you'll see it's going to be magical. Anyways, let's start. Am I blabbing too much? I don't know.
You're doing great, Nina.
Am I on time?
You're doing okay. We're about 20 minutes in, if that helps.
Yeah, that's good. Now, then we might even have time for me to merge layers at the end.
Awesome. Okay.
Anyways, so we're going to now start and see, yes, before using, I know I'm taking so much time talking and you're probably thinking, come on, Nina, use these custom actions. That's what we want to see. But also I want to mention something very important, and that is how I planned this pattern. So because I knew the upper part and the lower part are going to be basically a full drop, I placed these 2 bigger flowers here, and then I plan to place another one on this edge here. And when it comes to these flowers in between, I will also follow the logic of their arrangement and place them like that. And also, as you can see, everything is a bit kind of, quirky, kind of like shifted and not absolutely perfect, which is, I think, great for this kind of a style. Okay, so to use custom actions, finally, the important thing is that we create another layer. This is the layer that I call a placeholder layer. And for it, I need to just pick the color of my background and drop the color in. So why is this layer important? So first of all, it's important because if we just select the pattern swatch, all these elements that I have, what's going to happen is I'm going to select just them, but not the whole canvas. And since we're going to use custom actions and we're going to transform things, we need to transform them and keep them in place. So basically we need to select the whole canvas while doing that. And that's why this little placeholder layer comes in place. And we're just going to put them in this group. And as you can see, it's just at the bottom. Now, first of all, we need to select all the elements that we have. And I suggest that you put them in a group because it's easier like that. And then you're not going to accidentally leave out some of the elements that you didn't want to leave out. And we're going to go to selection. We're going to tap save and load, selection 1. And as you can see, what we created is now selected. And I will tap this arrow here and flip it horizontally and vertically. And now again, try not to tap anywhere so you don't nudge the layer, and just deselect it by tapping the arrow. And as you can see, what's happening now is we're taking the elements that are here at the center and we're placing them on the borders. So we're basically creating a part inside that is going to be free for us to add more elements. Okay, so the group is still selected. Selection, save and load. Selection 2. Now the arrow, flip horizontally, flip vertically. You see, we're now just getting this puzzle to fit together and we have this empty space appearing. Again, selection 3, arrow, flip horizontally, flip vertically, and deselect by tapping the arrow. And one more, selection 4, flip horizontally and flip vertically. You can see now that I shifted everything, these edges are filled and we have the empty space. But if you also noticed, I have actually 6 selections, but I only use 4. That is why the reason for that is in the first part, I'll use just 4 actions. And then once I add the flowers in here, I'm going to basically use selection 5 and selection 6 so that I can later add a big flower over here. Okay, so let me just grab these additional elements that I prepared. Again, this is just for the live class. If it was reality, I would just go in my layers and I would start drawing. But for now, it's like this. I will just drag them to pattern swatch. Also, as you can see, they're all separated by color and position. And I will just range them a bit, maybe over here. Okay. Oh, and let me just turn off this white flower. Okay. So basically I'm filling just this part because I know that in the upper part, I will add the white flower that you just saw as my element. So what else? What else do I need to do? Yes, I need to add these little plus signs, maybe one here. Maybe one here. We'll see if they don't fit. I can also later just erase them and then move them around. Okay. Okay. Also, with this, with these custom actions, don't worry about making it perfect right away because you can always reuse these actions and then move things around as you go. Okay, I think that's done. So I will now again select this pattern swatch group that has a placeholder layer, and I will go to selection, and now we can use selection 5. And this time for selection 5 and selection 6, we're going to do things just a bit differently. So I'm going to go to the arrow, and now I'm just going to flip them vertically. Okay, so I'm just flipping them vertically and not horizontally. Let's do now selection 6 and flip it vertically. And as you can see, it's basically everything is just fitting like a puzzle. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm kind of like, this is magic. This is kind of Procreate magic, you know, these custom actions. And then you see it kind of appearing and it's, I don't know, maybe it's just me. You can tell me in chat, maybe you also see it as some kind of Procreate magic, if that exists. I need some confetti and magic, you know, kind of like effects here. Anyways, let me just bring in this big flower. I will add it to the pattern swatch and I will position it. Okay. So what I'm seeing is that, for example, this one, this flower here really needs to move a bit. Let me just find it. Okay, this is here. So since this flower is in 2 layers, what I can do is just select both of them, go to selection, freehand is on, select it, and then I will drag both layers together, okay? And as I said before, this is an easy fix because it's right here in the center of my pattern swatch, so I can move all these things as I want. But for example, if you want to move this flower on a border or this one, what you can do is just kind of use custom actions again, rearrange the pattern, and then you will reach the element that you want to move. Okay, let me just add just one plus here. Okay. And I think it's done. So what I was telling in the beginning is that since I did these additional elements as separate things, they're all here. But what you want to do with your layers is basically merge all this the same layers together. So basically merge the orange one, the doodle one, and everything, and so on, so on. But we are not, I think it's better not to waste time on these perfectionist things so that we can have more time for questions later. So we'll just skip this merging thing, but please, if you need to merge things, merge your layers and make everything nice and organized. Anyways, the last thing we need to do is to test this out, right? So this is basically a finished pattern swatch, and I'm going to test it out by going to settings. I will share it as a JPEG, save image, and then I will just add it, insert a photo, and let's just add it. Okay, so now we have it here, and I will duplicate this image 3 times. And now, as we did before with the template, what I'm going to do is to arrange it in the same way. So basically just grab one corner, scale it down until it snaps. Do the same thing with the next one. Great. And the third one, and if you remember what we did is we didn't leave it here. We had to basically pull it down until the middle because it's a half drop. And now it fits perfectly. And now let's duplicate that one 2 times and fill these 2 parts. So one goes up, great. And another one goes down until the middle. Okay, great. And just turn off drawing guides. And as you can see, here is the repeat. There are no lines, everything fits perfectly. We did everything correctly. And I don't know, what do you think? I like this repeat. Just seems happy. I don't know. We just merge these images together. So basically this is a repeat and this is the swatch. And yeah. What time is it?
Oh, it's record time. It's only 2:30, so you got plenty of time.
That's nice. We can do now questions. And I mean, the first part is probably kind of like confusing what is happening.
Yeah, I think that tripped up a number of people, and it was a little fast, which I know was mostly just time constraints, but maybe circling back to that and
we can absolutely do that. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. We can do the template again and custom actions.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm also going to go ahead and drop into chat a link to where everyone can download the Procreate template that Nina's going to show you how to make again. And there's also a link to her Skillshare class about how to do this exact process. So you can watch it at your own pace and everything. So I'll drop that into chat now for you, for everyone.
Okay. So we can do this one if we have, exactly. We have more time. Like we can create a template again.
Yeah, maybe just go through. Would that be, if you guys want to drop in chat, if that would be the most helpful thing to focus on, or if you have other questions that you'd like me to answer for you, if we can help with anything else Procreate related. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like doing the template process again.
Okay, great. Really so basically what it did just right now, I'm not sure, maybe we can also, can you see the camera correctly, or is it better maybe if we go to the screencast? Or we can do the screencast. Maybe the
Let's put it on.
screencast might be like a kind of like better because
Mhm.
of the, okay, great. Yeah.
Perfect.
So basically what I'm doing, like I have drawing guides on and I edited the drawing guides and they're set to max. So we have like 4 parts of the canvas. And what I'm doing is basically just select whatever color you want. I mean, just select your favorite color. That's the best way to go for it. And then you're enjoying just seeing your favorite color here on the screen. Anyways, we're dropping the color in layer 1 and we're creating the first part of the template. So when I go to the arrow, I need to check snapping. So I need to check that magnetics and snapping is on, because with these settings on, I will very easily snap everything in place and it needs to be perfect. So as you can see, also distance and velocity set to max. And I just, try different settings and that's what works best for me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just grab one corner and scale this down to 1,500 pixels. So basically it's half of its size and it fits in this little square over here, okay? And I just deselected by tapping the arrow. So that's part of the template number 1, okay? So I open layer 2, drop the color again, press the arrow, and just drag this one and scale it down to the other corner, okay? So I have now 2 layers, this one and this one. And I'm creating a third one. So this time I'm just going to drag it in this corner. But as I said before, instead of leaving it here, I'm just going to get it with my fingers and snap it until the middle, because we are creating a half drop custom actions. And now deselect again. And now to fill these 2 empty spaces over here, I'm going to duplicate the layer 3 and I'm duplicating it 2 times. So I'll grab one duplicate, go up until it snaps until the middle and deselect. And I'll grab another duplicate and go down. Okay. So as you can see, these 2 are basically half squares and I want to merge them together. So I can just click on the layer and select merge down. So these are basically 4, these 4 will later become 4 custom actions. But before we finish everything, we need to create 2 more. So I'm dropping the color again. And now this time I'm not scaling it, I'm just dragging it until the middle. So we have basically half square. And another one, I'm dropping the color and dragging it down until the middle. Okay. And now you can see the situation in my layers. All these things are parts of a template. And that's also something that you will see, that you will get. Basically the same thing you're seeing now is what you can download and test out. Now, what you can do is basically, I will turn off the visibility so we can again create custom actions, and we're creating custom actions by making selections. So we're basically selecting these squares that we created, and later we will use that as custom actions. So I go to layer 1, go to select, save and load, and plus. So I have selection 1, and then I press selection to deselect. Then I go to layer 2. Again, I'm just, turning on and off the visibility just so you can see what I'm doing, but you can also turn the visibility for everything and just go one by one. So a tap on the layer, select, save and load, selection 2, and then deselect. And then let's do this one, select, save and load, selection 3, deselect. And as I mentioned before, just try not to touch anywhere outside before deselecting and selecting, so the things are not nudged by a pixel, which is the most common problem that happens, okay? Now this one, select, save and load, selection 4, layer 5, select, save and load, selection 5, and the final one, layer 6, select, save and load, selection 6. Okay. Was it okay?
I think that was definitely helpful. It's definitely something that even when I watched your Skillshare class, I had to do a couple times before
Yeah,
I
that's what I
fully
said.
got it.
Yes, that's what I said. Like, it just seems kind of like, why? Because it's kind of like, why is this like this? And then
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, we can also do like kind of like just a little test, you know, over here with these doodle things, you know, if I just do 3 of these like this, make some abstract shapes. I don't know. Right, and if I have them and create another layer underneath, right, as some kind of background, and I
Yep.
select these 2 layers, right, the ones that I'm working on, just forget about these here. These are just, let me just group these so we can forget about them. We don't need them. We can also delete them. Once we do the selections, they're all saved here, so we can delete these template layers. We do not need them. Anyways, let's select, so the placeholder layer and these little drawings. And when we go to selection, save and load, selection 1, you can see that what's here in the center, by flipping it horizontally and vertically, we're basically placing it on the borders, on the canvas edge, and then deselect by tapping the arrow. And okay, it's still selected, so we don't have to check that. Save and load, selection 2, arrow, flip horizontally and vertically, and we're basically, that what I said, just creating this empty space that we can fill in. And let's just do the same thing. Okay, and section 4, flip horizontally, flip vertically. And as you can see, what happened here while I was creating probably a template is I have this little line here. See? It's probably, while I was now showing this, I probably nudged the layer somehow. So the best thing when you're creating a template is that the best thing to do is actually to test it out, because sometimes if you're doing it fast, really, it's really easy that your finger taps, you know, the screen, and it just nudges it by 1 pixel, and then you get this little bug here. See?
Those tiny pixel lines, they are
Everyone's
nemesis.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying, for example, I know the template that I shared with you guys is absolutely perfect. I tested it out, and also the one that I used before, it's tested out, but this can happen. And I know in my Skillshare class, everybody's kind of like, I have this line, and that's the only reason for it, is this kind of like a little like tap on the screen, and then when you go back and you redo it, it's absolutely fine. So anyways, let's forget about the line. And for example, we can just then add more things here in the middle. And if we need to, right, we can again select everything we have and then use the rest of the actions, selection 5, and then selection 6. And then you see we still have like a little empty space, and we can add, you know, some other element to it. Okay, where did I make you? Here? Okay. So what do you guys think? Is it better now?
I think that definitely helped. I'm going to drop some links to Nina's Skillshare class as well. And I believe your Instagram is linked from that page too, right? Or I can find Instagram really quickly.
Yeah.
There was one question, and it was something I saw in your Skillshare class that kind of blew my mind because I didn't even realize you could do this, was how you can multi-select layers and then drop them onto a new canvas.
Yeah.
Do you mind showing that? Somebody had a question about that, and I thought that would be
yeah,
cool to demonstrate.
Of course. Let me just kind of see if I have some. Okay, we can drop it here. It's I know it's kind of like a bit crazy. When I also when I figured out the method, I'm kind of like, wow, this is so nice. Anyways, we just select them all and then grab it with your pencil, and then you're just holding your you're basically pressing the pencil on the screen, because if you stop pressing it, the layers will be lost. So while pressing the pencil, I need to go to gallery, right? And then while still pressing the pencil on the screen, I tap on another layer, and you can see this plus thing here, and I just drop it, and it's here. That's the only thing, is that you need to press the pencil while holding these layers. And then once you do that, you drop them. But also a little note is that sometimes Procreate has bugs. So, it happened to me so many times that I did that and I find finally the canvas where I want to drop things and it just doesn't drop them. And I'm like, oh God, like, and and then I have to restart things and
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong? So sometimes it's just a Procreate problem. Maybe you're doing things right, but sometimes you just need to restart Procreate.
Yeah, I find that a restart sometimes when I'm just running into those kind of things is definitely
Yeah.
helpful. But yeah, that multi-select trick just like blew my mind. It is kind of difficult because you do need to use like two hands at once and it can get kind of complicated, but their gestures and stuff are great.
Yeah, now that you mentioned the drop, what I want to say is that I told you that what you can do is reuse the templates. You can basically just go and duplicate it and start your half drop pattern there. But if you just open, for example, another layer, the important thing is that if your template is made in 3000 by 3000 pixels, then you can only use it in 3000 by 3000 pixels, right? You can create your template in 4000 by 4000. It doesn't matter. It just matters that where in the size in which it's created is the size in which you can use it. So what I wanted to mention is, for example, you started, it happens to me a lot of times. So I started working on my pattern in some other canvas, right? And it was just a sketch. And then I decided to make a pattern, but I don't have saved actions there. So what I do is I just go to my template, which is like this. I saved it as a separate canvas. It has all these selections. That's the template you'll get. I just grab the group. I just grab the whole group and do the same thing as we did just a few seconds ago. And I just drop it here. And so in this way, also this is the little bug in Procreate. So if you're importing a group, it looks like there is one item more, but it's not. It's just a group, it's a folder thing, So don't worry, that's also a little bug. So anyways, because I can import these template things I made, which means I don't have to carefully make them again without nudging things. I know this is perfect, it's tested. I can just go one by one, select them, and basically do the same thing as we did, save and load plus, which is like, I don't know, like 2 minutes probably of your time. So that's also one good thing to know on how you can reuse these this template to create custom actions.
Nina, maybe something that would be helpful to show is how, after someone accesses the template, how they can import it into Procreate. Would you be able to walk through that?
Well, I think you can just like tap on the, when you download it, when you add the file to your iPad, I think you can just tap on the file and then it will be open in Procreate because it is a Procreate file.
Yeah, I think there are some options like when you, I would definitely download it when you're on your iPad from Dropbox, from that link that we shared. And yeah, you should have an option of like what software you want to use to open it. And I believe if you might need to scroll to the right a little bit, Procreate should be there and then it'll just automatically import basically, right?
Yeah, or sometimes I think it just opens, like if you, like when you do brushes, when you have, or you have other Procreate files, when you just tap on them, it's just like the first, the only program that opens them is Procreate. So it should be automatic, I think, yeah.
Cool.
Okay, someone said it there, it just opened automatically. Yeah, that's what happens, for me.
Okay, cool. So we have about 15 more minutes.
Great.
I'm trying to look through all the chat questions. Okay, could you jump into showing when you hit the transform and you have those snapping options, they're kind of hidden, like to turn those all the way up, maybe to show how you set those.
Oh yeah, let me just select something. So when I go to selection and then snapping, it's basically set to max. So there is like, you can, distance and velocity are both, so you see like it's 50 here and max here. So I think what's the difference is that I think the distance is basically telling you like how further away from, for example, a guide, your object is. So if you put it like to max, what happened to me when I was using it, when it was like kind of 20 something, it just never snapped in place. I always had to, go in and then snap it. So like the only thing I can tell you is like setting it to max works absolutely perfectly for me.
Yeah, I found that definitely helped turning it all the way up and kind of.
Yeah, definitely. Because when they added this new feature, I was just kind of like, it's not working. Like, kind of like, oh, it just doesn't snap, doesn't snap nicely. So I don't know, we can also try it out. See. Yeah, I think velocity is like how. It's about also these like lines that start appearing. But you can also test it out to see like, what works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is kind of like just, I don't know, it just feels different. It just snaps, in place.
Yeah. It sounds like some folks are having trouble doing the save and load process. So
Okay.
I think it's just a matter of making sure that that layer is selected, hitting the selection, and then that button, but maybe just sort of showing.
So I can show you, for example, on this square here. So the important thing is when you're selecting, you don't select it with this selection thing, right? So you're selecting it by tapping the layer and going select, and you will see like these diagonal lines appearing everywhere else, just not on this square, right? So while that's happening, I'm not basically tapping anywhere. I have the menu down here, right? And in this menu, I have save and load, and I just tap on it, and I just tap the plus, and I have the selection. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
So it might be just the confusion of like, when you say selection, we all think about this thing here,
Mm-hmm.
but by using, and also what's important is to deselect, right? You just select, deselect, or this and then deselect. But the important thing is that when you're creating custom actions, you need to go to the layer and then select and tap select there inside the layer. And then the menu will automatically open, and you can just click save and load and plus.
Perfect. And yes, and I've already shared links to Nina's Skillshare class if you want to watch it again. We'll also have a recording of this class that will be sent out via email and will also be available on the original Spoonflower blog post announcing this symposium if you want to watch it again at your own pace, so you can kind of pause and do all of that.
I just saw some 2 questions. Yeah, that might be very good. I think one was about the thing, I'm not sure, maybe you can catch it, about not selecting everything. That might happen because you always, like, whatever you draw on your canvas, when you go and select it, it will just select the object, right? And if you're using custom actions, what's important is to have this placeholder layer, right? So when you select placeholder layer, which is a layer filled with color that fills the whole canvas, then your selection will be the whole canvas. So that's the important thing when using custom actions. And somebody also asked about why we're using, I think, these 2 things that we're flipping. And that's basically, if you saw how we arranged the pattern when I finished the swatch, right? Like we had one pattern swatch here. Let me just show you. I'll just add the picture and then I'll be able to show you. Okay. Just add, insert a photo. Okay, here we are. Let me just duplicate this 3 times. So put this one here. And this is the same way in which we created the template, right? So there is a whole logic to it because this is a half drop pattern. So what happens with a half drop pattern, as I mentioned in the beginning, is that you have like, let me just, okay. So you have, a swatch, and it drops by half, right? It's what we talked about. Like on the sides, the swatch will just drop by half. But what happens down here is like a full drop, right? So you have a full drop on the upper sides, but you have a half drop on these left and right side, right? So when we create a template, we also need things to shift from the upper part and the lower part. And that's why while using these two half squares, we're just flipping them vertically, you know, so we can reach these, these edges up and down. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Trying to catch up. Yeah, that looks like that was helpful.
Yeah, and sorry guys if I was too fast at the beginning, because it was kind of like, you know, there is so much, you know, and I'm just really did my actually rehearsals, and I did like had to kind of like measure my time, because it's kind of a bunch of stuff. And I even thought about kind of like, I'll just draw this, and then I started measuring, and I'm kind of like, no way, it's impossible.
There's a lot to it. Yeah. Someone had a question about, is there a limit to the number of save and load selection types that you can make? Do you know?
To be honest, I don't know. I mean, like the most selections I made is kind of like 6 or 7. I mean, you can we can test it out. I can post on Instagram. I can just like, you know, just do like this.
Yeah, like how many you can make.
I can do that on over the weekend. I have no plans. I can just, you know, just chill with my iPad and I can test this. I really don't know. Probably, but if you're making patterns, also if you're making full drop patterns and you need to make custom actions, you don't need anything, you know, more than like 6. It's just not necessary. But yeah.
Yeah, you definitely won't hit following your method. You're not going to hit any sort of limit or anything.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Also, like, I know if you know the old methods of creating patterns, because I had a class on intricate patterns, and that was before the snapping and magnetics was a thing in Procreate. And I just remember, I don't know, I think everybody who was making pattern was kind of like, oh, like, you know, kind of app gods, you know, kind of gave us, you know, the snapping and magnetics. I cannot believe, like, my life is kind of like, you know, I think I basically celebrated the feature of like, I can't believe. Anyways, but before that, like, we did patterns by, you know, grouping things and then moving things, and then I had just an incredible amount of layers. Everything was duplicated, and then I had to merge everything, and it was, yeah, it was easy to hit a layer limit. But like with this method, what's great about it is that you're, I mean, I'll just go into this swatch that I was making, right? Like if you go to layers, the layers are intact. So nothing is duplicated. So you can basically reuse this all the time, and it's just flipping things around. So it's very convenient for not hitting the layer limit. And I did really complex patterns like that required a bunch of different, you know, layers and textures and stuff. And it was super helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw a question about maybe how to export from Procreate. So if you want to like export it as a JPEG or maybe as a PNG, if you just want to kind of show that. I know it's kind of hidden under those settings, not settings, but the
yeah, you can go. So one thing, so the thing is like 1, 2, 3, what I want to say is what I do is, first of all, I mostly export it as a JPEG. And my next step is what I showed you here. I tested quickly in Procreate. But if I want to use it further, if I want to, you know, see how it looks when it really like repeats on a larger scale, I go to Adobe Illustrator and I drop my JPEG there and create a pattern swatch, for example. And you can also do this with Photoshop or some other app. Because it, you know, gives you like a better ability to see it really like, you know, like very on a bigger scale, so you can really see like all the details and if it fits. So you go to actions, share, and then okay, you can go to JPEG, which is what I often do. You can do PNG as well. And sometimes, like if you're working with a client and you're doing your pattern design in Procreate, which is absolutely fine. I know a lot of people ask, is it like okay to do like professional client work in Procreate? It is, because if you're keeping your layers separate, if you're keeping a file editable, if you're keeping your resolution high, then it's just as if you're using Photoshop. There is no difference. It's just a raster-based program like Photoshop. It has different things than Photoshop. Photoshop has different things to it, but the base of these two programs, it is the same. Also, if a client is asking you for a Photoshop file, you can, that's what I want to say, you can export your Procreate file as, where it is, PSD, okay? It's up here. So you can also export it as PSD, right? I'm not exporting it now. Let's cancel, abort. Anyways, and then you can just, if you're using Photoshop, you can go into Photoshop, and in Photoshop, you will have everything the same as you have it here. So you will have all the layers separated. You can then use other things, or you can edit it further in Photoshop if you need. Loss of quality of elements. Yeah, that's a good question. And also one thing I wanted to mention about that is what I tend to do, for example, when I showed you, like these patterns are simple, you know, you have, I mean, for example, my pattern is even more simple because it's kind of like, you know, quirky. So I don't need to be precise. I don't need to be, it's the style of the pattern is like that. But for example, if I'm doing a pattern like I showed here, what I tend to do so I don't lose quality, I tend to stay in the sketch phase, right? I tend to really make everything perfect in a sketch phase, because in Procreate, for example, that's a difference from Procreate and Photoshop, is if you move and transform, like if you scale up and down, duplicate and duplicate your elements, you will see like a big loss of quality. So if you have one element and you duplicate it like 4 times, the loss of quality will be very visible. So what I tend to do, like for example, in this example, I just sketch everything, and until I'm happy with the sketch, I don't start drawing. So once I'm happy with the sketch and everything is positioned, I start illustrating. So I don't have to move things around later.
Yeah, yeah. And I saw some questions about like, is what you did, you know, the tile that you originally made, is that ready to like export? And yeah, you can basically just export that as a JPEG or a PNG and upload it directly to Spoonflower, or use it for whatever other sort of software or website you'd like to use it for. And Spoonflower at least doesn't require that you vectorize your pattern. So you can use raster, you can use photographs, you can use whatever kind of file type. So really versatile in that way.
Yeah, that's true. And also it's also like sometimes people are confused and they think that maybe just like, you know, POD sites can accept raster files, but it's not true, because like if people are, you know, doing watercolors, well, watercolors cannot be, you can vectorize them, but you're losing the quality. So if you're like doing watercolor pattern design, then your final pattern swatch is raster, you know, it's like made in Photoshop, it's edited in Procreate, it's so basically, and a JPEG image of your finished swatch is also, I mean, great, you know, to upload on Spoonflower or to share whatever you want to share it. But the only important thing you need to know is to keep your resolution high. So I think 300 dpi is always a good idea.
Yes. Yeah. The higher the better in that case.
Yeah.
Because you can always go smaller. That's kind of my default, is always start bigger than you think you need. And then go down
that is
there.
why vector programs are great, actually. But then there is this thing I talked about at the beginning. It's kind of like, you know, you have a vector program where, you know, you don't have to worry about the quality, because you can always export it as you like. But then there is this kind of thing of like the vector program, the textures are not so nice and it's not so convenient, you know, and it's not so. And then you have, you know, Procreate with its pros and cons. So in the end, like when people ask, like, should I go with vectors? Should I learn Adobe Illustrator, or should I go Procreate, or should I, you know, I'm like, you just do what you like. So if you feel like Procreate is like, if you're enjoying, you know, Procreate and textures and, you know, brushes, and Then you do Procreate, then you do raster things, you know, and then you can learn Adobe Illustrator if it's needed. If not, you can also work with clients with your style, with a raster program. It's absolutely fine. And if you like perfection, you know, if you like vectors, then you go with Adobe Illustrator, you know, and or maybe mix these two somehow. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest advice.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And we'll also have, there's another session going on with Esther
Yeah.
teaching how to do repeats in Illustrator.
Yeah.
So that'll be available on the blog post afterwards as well. So I just shared
Yeah.
links to that. But we're at 3 o'clock. I feel like that hour.
Oh, wow.
I know it's late your time, but it's 3 o'clock here in the East Coast of the US. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone for joining. We're so excited to have you here. And thank you so much, Nina, for your time. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. And
yeah, thank you. I mean, totally, like, thank you all for listening to me. I hope everything was focused. I didn't go somewhere. Here's my technical support. Come on, people, like, let's like say like a big yay for the whole equipment thing that worked. Like
that was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much really for joining the live, for taking your time, yeah, I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you. And we'll have a recording up early next
Yeah.
week for everyone to rewatch, and we'll email it out. So thanks again. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
Bye.
Bye.